Yeah, so I'm going to be talking about empowering your reporting, a low-code Power BI report checklist. Basically, this is it's going to be a very quick session from me. It is, so my presentation is more so to encourage people, especially when it comes to Microsoft Power BI, because I can't say I'm an expert using the tool, but I've been using it for quite some time now. I'd say 2 years, and it's been wonderful so far. Literally every time I'm on Power BI, there's always something new to learn, and that's why I really love Power BI. So this session is basically for people who maybe for some reason you feel Power BI is a complicated tool to use, or you struggled like me. So before, in the beginning, I always shied away from Power BI. I'd rather use Microsoft Excel or Google Data Studio for my reporting, just because I felt it was easier and it was better. I mean, I'm not saying any tool is better than the other tool, but basically Power BI is so unique in the sense that it is good for everybody, regardless of your technical know-how or your technical knowledge in the, like technical landscape. So it's a tool that literally, you can get the free license and start like navigating through the free license, and you can actually see that is a tool that anyone can use regardless, and is seamless and is very, very insightful and also very efficient. So that's me, as I earlier introduced myself. I've just attached my LinkedIn account on there. Yeah, so the agenda for today is the overview of low-code Power BI, benefits of using Power BI low-code approach, and then I'll just give a rundown of, for your first ever report, or for your first ever report, I'll just give like a checklist of how to go about it. I know my session is basically for everyone, but I specifically say this session is mostly for, I would say, two categories of people majorly. And the first one would be if you're in school, maybe you're in uni and you're doing your BSc or you're doing your master's, or you're just trying to navigate from a different side of study into like the technical analytical field, which was me 2 years ago, and you're scared and skeptic about what tools you need to start working with, or what tools you need to start learning with, what tools companies are using out there in the industry, I'd say literally go for Power BI, because like I've said earlier on, it's a tool for everybody and it's not something you should shy away from. And then also for those people who are in the job field, job market, trying to get a job, I know it's not easy at all. And I know, well, sometimes when you're applying for like a data analyst, business analyst, digital analyst, literally most analytical role, they will always have like stages of interviews. So it's like first stage, second stage, third stage. Sometimes some people have fourth stage. I'm not exactly sure why, but there's always those stages. And then in one of the stages, you might need to make a presentation. Okay, this is XYZ data set. I need you to create a useful reporting dashboard or a performance dashboard and just talk about it. And they can open the floor for you and say, yeah, go ahead, use any tool you'd like to use. I say use Microsoft Power BI. I'm not an advocate or anything. I've just used the tool so much so that I feel that Microsoft Power BI is one of the best tools for analytical reporting. So now straight into it. So Power BI stands out as a powerful tool that puts the ability to create impactful reports into the hands of many. That's literally what I've explained now. And it empowers individuals with varying levels of technical expertise. So like I said earlier, regardless of if you're just getting into the field, the analytical field, or you've been an expert for quite some time, or you're on an intermediate level, is basically a tool for everyone. It's very user friendly. And the third point is about how it empowers both front end and back end users by democratizing the analytical process. So what I mean by back end and front end user. So basically, if you're a digital analyst or you're a data analyst, you would be the one to, like do the back end job of ETL, extraction, transformation, loading, and then creating this beautiful dashboard that you can share with your teams if you're in a work environment and you have to share with stakeholders or your team members or anything of that sort. So those are back-end users, and that's where I've said that is very easy for everyone to use. And then also front-end users, Power BI is very, very user-friendly in the sense that who may not have the technical know-how to use Power BI. All I want to do is go in there, see the numbers. How are we performing today? What's going up? What's going down? What's happening? How can I navigate? Power BI is very, very efficient in that aspect because there's lots of user-friendly icons and user-friendly, buttons that anyone who is not technical, at all, can easily navigate through Microsoft Power BI. And then most of the benefits are it accelerates development. So when you start with Microsoft Power BI low-code, when you start with Microsoft Power BI low-code approach, it kind of puts the power into your hands in the sense that you are able to learn whilst you're using the software. And another beautiful thing about Power BI is that there's so many tools online. There's so many tools on Microsoft. There's so many tools on YouTube. So many tools and so many like tips and help everywhere. So literally when you start as a novice, you can easily learn so much and then basically accelerate in your personal development. It encourages collaboration, simplifies the creation of sophisticated reports, supports efficient data integration, and ensures flexibility, security, cost effectiveness, and scalability in reporting processes. Some of these things we're going to see as we go over the checklist. So the first is defining the purpose of your report. So so for every report that you're going to ever do is going to be, you have to ask yourself questions, or you have to have, questions that need to be answered. It's almost like a research question. So basically, I'm doing this report because I need to achieve XYZ. So the first point is to highlight key metrics and KPIs relevant to the report's purposes. So if you're working in an organization, and for example, myself, I work in the marketing team, in a publishing organization. So my KPIs would clearly be different from someone who works in HR. So some of my KPIs would be, okay, we have a website where we sell most of our products. So we would like to see how many sessions we have in XYZ amount of time, what are the transactions, what are our customers looking for, what do they like? Those are like KPIs. So basically, some other KPIs could be revenue. If you're interested in how much revenue you've made year on year, month on month, week on week, those are KPIs that you need to think of. And then also for personal development, you can just, if you're using Power BI for the first time and it's a free version and you're just like trying to play around with it, there's also loads of data sources. When you have a data source, just look at the data and then give yourself a metric, basically. Ensure alignment with organizational goals to guide report development, which I've also highlighted. Implement visuals for analysis based on selected metrics. So basically, whatever you've decided you want to achieve, your visuals should, sort of tally with your end goal. So the second on our checklist is data connection and import. So I've just put a screenshot of what Power BI data connection sort of looks like, and it's this first screenshot that says get data. So Power BI is so good that it connects to so many data sources. So if you want an Excel workbook, if you want Google Analytics, if you have SharePoint, Access Database, SQL, Power BI is very effective in connecting to different data sources. And also, if you have tables in different data sources, so you have a table in Excel and you have another table in GA, and you want to sort of connect everything together in a streamlined workspace. You can also do that as well on Power BI. So ensure seamless connectivity to relevant data sources, and then verify successful data import, leveraging Power Query for local data transformation and cleansing. So I'm just going to explain that. The second screenshot is literally what the Power Query interface looks like. And Power Query is the transformation bit of Microsoft Power BI. So from that screenshot now, for example, in the customer ID, if I wanted to change it from uppercase to lowercase, those are things I could do. So it's basically transforming your data, cleaning your data. If you want to remove or add some things, this is where the magic happens. And it's also very easy because when we're talking about low code Power BI, is actually very easy and very seamless for someone who may not have any, prior knowledge or knowledge at all in DAX querying. So you can easily toggle through and right click, and then you see options for you to manipulate your data basically. The third one is data modeling. So establishing relationships between tables in data models. So if you're working in, if you're working in an organization that might have, a big, huge data set, and sometimes the data sets are not all in the same place, like I said earlier on, you might have to get bits from here, bits from there. Power BI is good in the sense that you can create relationships between those tables. So you can do like an outer join, you can do like an inner left join, and it's very seamless on Power BI. Optimize DAX to create calculated columns and measures for additional insight. So it's quite simple, like the example I gave earlier on with myself in my team. Some of my metrics are sessions, transactions, e-commerce conversion rates, revenue, data, quantity, stuff like that. So for example, I might only have a table that has sessions and transactions, but I would need another column for e-commerce conversion rates. And I could easily get that from division through sessions and transactions. That can easily be done on Power BI, Microsoft Power BI, because you can use DAX querying to do that division and then create a whole new calculated column or measure. And I mean, I'm just talking about the easiest functionality of Microsoft Power BI, but there's also so much that DAX querying can do. And DAX is not something that you learn in one day. It's literally something that you learn as you go on. The more you use Microsoft Power BI, the more your metrics change. Maybe you need a different metrics. You need to do a calculation, or you need to do a calculated metrics or measure where you're trying to compare two data sets from two different time periods. You're going to have to, create a DAX expression that would facilitate that. So it can get as complicated as it could, but then for low code Power BI, it's quite easy for anyone who has like a novice technical background to use. The third one is develop hierarchies for drill down capabilities. Now the fourth on our checklist is data visualization. So utilize appropriate visuals based on the nature of data. So for example, this is quite self-explanatory. If you're looking at if you're looking at a graph for a time period, you might not want to use bar charts, because bar charts would usually compare two different groups with each other, or groups with each other. But if you're looking at time frame, you might want to use a line graph. So basically, it's just try to tally your visuals with your KPI. So what you want to achieve. Not every visual can achieve every KPI. So try to use appropriate visuals to achieve your KPIs. Then adhere to best practices for visualization. So avoiding unnecessary 3D effects, unnecessary pictures and colors everywhere. Just stick to a standard. Basically, it's nice to see very beautiful reports, beautifully made reports. But at the end of the day, what we need in a report or a dashboard is just to be able to pick the points. So what is happening with our data? What is happening with sales? Are they going up? Are they coming down? At the end of the day, it can look beautiful, but then we still want to get the basic information. So don't make it too complicated. Don't use too many colors. Don't use too many 3D effects. Just keep it simple, keep it nice, make it easy for everyone to read and understand at the end of the day. Adhere to ensure a consistent color scheme, font, and formatting throughout the dashboard, which I've just touched on. And continuation of data visualization, design a clean and intuitive layout for your report. So I think in the new, I think currently in the free version, especially with the online version of Power BI, if you import your table, your data source, it gives you this functionality. So if it on the right side where it says auto create report, so Power BI is able to use the data you've just cleaned or transformed using Power Query to like automatically create a report that it thinks, to automatically create a report. And this is actually a very useful tool for someone who is using Power BI for the first time, because once it does that for you, and yes, you have your KPIs, you can go back to the reporting and actually see and tweak those visuals in ways that kind of suit your own KPIs. But for example, if you were, like I said, if you were going for an interview and they just gave you XYZ data set and said, oh, present this to us and make it into a meaningful dashboard, it will be very, very easy for you to use the auto create report, because then you can ask Power BI to create a report for you based on the tables, and you can begin to play around with your visuals and see what put the tables or the visuals you would like to. Implement the use of line graphs to identify time periods, which is what I've just said. Facilitate easy comparisons between different categories or periods. So if you're looking for, if you work in a team that looks at previous data, so if you do a lot of forecasting and previous data is very important to you guys, Power BI is also a powerful tool to use to compare time periods in terms of year-on-year data, month-on-month, week-on-week, day-on-day. Of course, you would have to use DAX querying to, make sure everything is streamlined to what you want. But then at the end of the day, it's a very, very good tool to use for comparison between different time periods. Implement interactive features such as slicers, filters, and drill throughs. So this we might already know, and if you don't know, you can easily add slicers and filters. So if you're looking at okay, for example, I've just, the second screenshot is, if you look at average e-commerce conversion rate by device category. So you could easily create a filter where the user so the front end user might only be interested in desktop, or some might only be interested in tablet, or some might only be interested in mobile. So when you're sharing your report to like a wider team, also consider that everyone might not be interested in everything on your reporting. So it's very good and very, very effective to use slicers and filters, because that way, if I want to see what's on your report and I'm only interested in mobile, I can click through a filter that would only show me mobile, and then I can see the numbers for mobile. So that's basically what that does. The fifth on the checklist is user experience. So yeah, we've already said that utilize slicers, filters, buttons, bookmarks for interactive reporting experience. Provide information tooltips for a better understanding of data points. So I really love tooltips because so tooltips are very, very good in Microsoft Power BI, because if you wanted to literally explain all the visuals on your dashboard, it would be very possible with just one button. So if I wanted to explain average e-commerce conversion rate by age, I would have like a tooltip here where the front end user can click on it, and then it will give a summary of what that table is trying to explain to he or she. So that's really what the tooltip is about. So it just provides more information as to each of the visuals you've put on your dashboard. Optimize the report layout for mobile devices using responsive design features. Now, the sixth one is to publish and implement data security. So if publishing and sharing the dashboard, implement appropriate data security measures. So usually in Teams, so if you're publishing your dashboard on a public space, you would want to publish your dashboard for the people or users that would actually need it, not for everyone. And that's because it might have, some sensitive information that you wouldn't want to share with other teams, stuff like that. So Power BI gives you the power to choose who or what teams you'd like to share your dashboard with, and implement that security level or security measure. Apply low-code RLS to restrict data access based on user rules, just as I've said. So also, the seventh one is regularly updating and maintaining the dashboard. So with Power BI, you do not need to go in there every day to refresh your data. You can always set an automatic refresh. So if you want your dashboard to be updated every day at 12 p.m., you could set that on Power BI Workspace. If you want it to be updated every 30 minutes, you could also set that on the Power BI Workspace. So you don't need to manually, go in and refresh your data to see what's up to date. Then regularly reviewing and updating visuals and metrics to ensure relevancy. So if, for example, KPIs do change every now and then. So if you're interested in new KPIs and you need to implement that in your dashboard, it's always very easy for you to, even though you've published your dashboard, it's always still very easy for you to go back and, change or add new things to your dashboard. Security and compliance is the 8th on the checklist, and it is the first is to adhere to security and compliance standards when handling sensitive data. So, for example, if you have, you can do this on the ETL level. So you can do this on the transform level with Power Query. So if you have columns of sensitive data from customers or whatever, you could easily hide those columns if you do not want them represented on the dashboard. So that's a functionality that's very good that Power BI offers. And then lastly, regularly auditing and reviewing access permissions to maintain data integrity. So basically the same thing I've said before. And yeah, that is the end for me. It's a very short presentation. Basically, I just wanted to reach out to people who who may have not used Power BI before and who may have not used Power BI before, because I was in a similar situation where I never used Power BI, and I was working in an organization, and then we had to migrate our data reporting to Power BI. And so I was thrown in the deep end because there was no training whatsoever for me to be able to utilize Power BI. So I started a lot of self-learning, and I was like, oh, wow, it's not that hard. It's actually something that I could pick up. I easily picked up, and then I won't say I'm a master of, but I mean, I'm learning every day, but it's just me saying you should go ahead and use Microsoft Power BI if you need to do any data reporting. Is a very, very powerful tool in that sense.